Man, it's so long ago. It was at MGM, I think. I can't be sure, but I think so. And Randall Wallace and a nice young executive called Rebecca Pollock, and Alan Ladd Jr. was always with it. And we talked and looked, and you know, it was for me. I thought, good idea. But you know, I read it, and then your sense kicks in about, you know, will I, won't I, you know, as an actor, and it intrigued me, but for one reason or another, I passed, and that was that.
You're doing great. I think it's the last one you look up here. There's something in there. I think it's like.
That's okay.
Charlie, take 2.
Action.
The script was a very haunting piece of work. You know, I put it down and thought, you know, pretty good script, but then, you know, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So it obviously got inside my head, and I felt that it was given to me on an acting basis, of course, but I felt like I had to tell the story all of a sudden.
I was constructing the way it might look if it was like in, you know, just in the wee hours before you go to bed, before you go to sleep, when you're in bed. And it's like, yes, editing sequences here, this lens here, and that lens. And then I'd say, oh, well, pity I passed on it. It's kind of cool, you know. It was like I was doing something else, you know. I'd worked on a couple of projects, and then my assistant says, so what are you going to do next? I said, I don't know, you know. I said, I read this script once. It keeps, like, ringing inside. It keeps coming out of the bowels of my brain, you know. It's in a back file stowed in there someplace, and every now and then I kind of drag it out and review it. Not the script itself, but just what I remember of the script. It was very strange. And he said, what is it? And I said, oh, it's cool. And he said, tell me the story. So I stood in front of him in a trailer. I meant to tell him a story in like 5 minutes, but like 2 hours later, I'm jumping around and fucking, you know, and I'm just going with my imagination, you know. And then he said, God, that sounds amazing. He says, where's the script? I said, I don't know. We got it in an archive somewhere. I mean, so we dug it up and read it. And I realized that I'd gone a good deal further away from what I'd read, because it was like, you know, in thinking about it and doing all that, your imagination kicks in. And it wasn't exactly what was on the page. What was on the page was great, but it had inspired me over a couple of years. Oddly, you know, because I was able to stand there and tell him that story, I said, you know, I want to direct this, because I think I got a good way to tell this story. I asked Laddie, who had by then left MGM. He was at Paramount, and he'd taken like 3 projects with them, the Brady Bunch, Braveheart, and something else, you know. And so I said, I want to do it. And they were like, oh, okay. I said, but I want to direct it. And he said, well, I haven't got a problem with that, he said. And I'm like, really? He said, yeah. I said, great.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Great. Got more pressure.
He wanted to direct only. And we started talking about it, and we couldn't figure out really who else would be proper to do the lead in the picture, because you have to have thousands of people follow this man. And who do you really follow out there? People will say that he's the leader, people will follow him. And it's not Brad Pitt or Christian Slater or anybody like that. And finally, Mel, because I think nobody else could agree about who else should be in the picture except himself, finally agreed to do it and not just direct it.
This
This may not be an interesting question for you guys, but how long did it take to shoot the battle sequence? How long does it take to edit the battle sequence, and then how long will it play in the film? I know those.
You spent 3 weeks just on this sequence.
Yeah, well, what did you shoot? How long did you shoot on this?
I think 5 or 6 weeks all up just on this sequence.
Yeah,
100,000 feet of film just on this battle.
Oh, did I cut it faster than you shot it? That's great.
And you cut it faster than you shot it. You cut it in like 3 weeks, I think.
Ab omnibus, vacatis vestris, in nomine Patris.
Well, Steve was, flying blind mostly. I kind of gave him the footage, and he went away and kind of did an assemblage, which was it's a good starting point. And he was very generous with the assemblage. I mean, he throws everything in, the kitchen sink included. And what you have to do is look at it and evaluate it. And that can only come from your own personal tastes and what you see and what you want from the rhythm of it. Between the two of us, we figure out what's extraneous or how to tell the story like a little more economically and elegantly. And that's all editing is.
I think we saw with Man Without a Face that the man is extremely talented as a director. And the driving force behind this is his passion for the project. And, it comes right from the feet up. And it's there every morning at 5 o'clock, and it's there still at 10 o'clock at night, 6 days a week.
Rolling? Yeah. Action.
I think actors have a good vantage point. Not everybody can make that jump, but I started off telling stories. I told stories to my brothers. I told stories to my parents. I told stories to my friends. I told stories at school. I tell stories to my children. It's a storytelling medium. It's just using celluloid and sound. And how do you want people to see that story? How do you see it? How would you like them to understand it?
6 apples, take 3.
The French will grovel to anyone with strength. But how will they believe our strength when we cannot rule all of our own island?
There was a few things that I had to learn, I'll tell you. When I got in there, I thought, well, I must know this stuff. A lot of it was subliminal. You'd picked it up along the way, hanging around the hub of most film sets, working with great directors, and I mean the George Millers and the Peter Weirs and the Dick Donners, and Franco Zeffirelli, all these people that I'd worked with over the years, great directors, so I'm picking up tips from the best,
Just make sure that it kind of dies down. Put your hands up and just, keep it, keep the lid on it if it's getting too loud so that you can make the points clear. Okay.
I was fascinated by the whole process. I would hang around and ask them a bunch of questions. I'd say like, well, why? And they were gracious. They'd explain everything. And I'd be like, wow, that's interesting. And they'd talk about the language of film and editing and their concepts of it. And to me, that was just so stimulating and interesting. I was just like sitting there like a sponge, just drinking it up. I'm in my 20s, You can't get a better education than that. If you've never done something before, it's probably a good idea to do something small and contained first to get a feel for what it is, which I did intentionally. I chose a small film with few actors and what I thought was a strong story and, shot it in 45 days or whatever it took, and bingo, it didn't use a whole bunch of money, and I thought that's responsible. And it's also, can I do this? I don't know. I think I can, but I'm not wholly sure. I was terrified, I called up like Clint Eastwood because I'd just seen his film, The Unforgiven. I said, hey man, I'm really scared. And you're an actor and you directed. And I said, what's the deal? He says, don't worry about it. I'm like, thanks, Clint. And he said, the tall one, we called him. And he's like, a lot of this stuff is just subliminal. You'll remember when you need to. I'm like, okay. And he was right. A lot of that stuff just comes back out, what you need to. And your imagination. And as you become more relaxed with it, of course, you try more stuff and take more chances. Yeah, to go from something simple like that to something really big, I felt like I could at that point. Although, both times, terrified.
All right, put it here. I like the way they just kind of like shaking their spears and stuff.
Yeah, just trying to match.
It's very Shakespearean.
When you start kind of, do you look at a script at all? I mean, what?
No.
What do you ask that? I don't use a script to cut with. There's no point really. Occasionally, just to see if the lines are scripted or not. But the film tells you what to do. Pretty.
I think
essentially.
we've looked at the script, you know, like 3 times, just to clear something up, like French or some French translation or something.
The script's just like a starting point, especially when you're shooting. It's
You
this
leave
is
the
what
script
you
well
shoot.
behind.
And then you.
Once you shoot it, the script is gone.
What sequence are you working on now?
Well, I think we're going back to the, like one of the big battles. That's where we left off.
Obviously, going to trim a lot of stuff too. Where does it get? Where do you want to?
Just gonna watch the whole thing.
It does go on forever.
Oh man!
And obviously, we want to keep this stuff.
I love that shot.
And this one, which is just goes on forever.
Yeah.
Gibson up doors, Lindsay.
They're cheering.
They're cheering.
Why don't we just ride down there and slaughter the miserable peasants? Seems like a waste of good manpower to me.
Confrontation might be a foregone conclusion, my lord. But nonetheless, I feel we should deliver the king's terms.
I was a young man, relatively young man. It was like I was 38 years old, 38 years of age, which is, you know, you're still pretty, you know. And, man, it kicked my ass because it was a huge workload, a lot of decisions. It wasn't like I was doing it alone. I had lots of help. I mean, God, the first AD on this was a legend. He's passed away since.
Cut. Now that was good, mate. We'll do one more, and we might get just a little bit better formation.
David Tomlin. Man was a legend. He'd been in the game for 50 years. Thank God for his organizational prowess. And some of his creative ideas were wonderful, you know. But he'd been working since the age of 15 in film, and he'd done the big ones, you know. He'd worked with David Lean, and, you know, I was fortunate. But, you know, you can see when somebody knows, you know, what they're doing. And you never do these things alone. You need a lot of help. I mean, you need a great DP. God, he was amazing. He was just so cool to work with. He's the coolest guy on the planet. He's so cool. And I mean, like, calm and measured and like, let's see, it's just nothing's a problem. And he's very confident in his skills and his abilities. And it's just, you'll talk about, so what do you want to see here? And you get down and you hunker down and talk about it, and bingo, you know. And you got an idea, a concept, and he goes, He says, how about this? And sometimes he just wants you to paint with words, like emotions and stuff, and then he'll bring a lens out, you know, and it's like, cool. That's knowing your stuff. It's fantastic.
Oh, cool. This is frightening. Yeah, okay.
155, so you can take 3/8 camera.
Insolent bastard. I want this Wallace's heart on a plate. Action! No.
Sorry. I want this Wallace's heart on a plate.
I think there's some really nice Steadicam stuff that goes in between the horse lines. You might have used some. Yes, you did. But there's, I don't know if you used it. There were some takes that were really better than others, and I don't know, maybe you've used it? Let's have a look anyway. So he goes off and sends the signal up.
And then I see these guys moving again. That's why
You see them coming through there. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great.
Is this where we're getting repetitive right there?
I think so.
And that?
And that. And that. Maybe, and...
No, that's where I'm just repeating. See if I can just...
I love that shot. See, I think you could cut like...
How much of it?
Like 4 cuts right out. just dropped 4 cuts, and you got the same deal. I like going back to that wide again. I love that.
Let me try to take out these 3 shots for the moment.
Okay.
And then I'm going to do this with my music, which is just going to make a bump. I guess I'll just fix that later.
Music's going to play a big part in this movie too. I can see with the bagpipes. How are you going about choosing your musical source music and just?
Well, we're just doing temp at the moment. Steve pulls bits. We got a lot of discs and stuff that we use. But Steve just puts it on to fit the rhythm, and you like to cut the music.
I like to cut the music. Yeah. Well, also the composer will come in and write music for the whole picture. You know.
He's probably working on it as we speak.
Bar 41. 1, 2, 3.
The guy who's writing the score and writing all the music, James Horner, is, he's one of the best. I really like his work, and I think he's going to do the best score of his whole life. I think it's just going to be terrific from yapping to him and talking to him and listening to little bits.
It really affects the mood of the film, too.
Oh, yeah. Music is, ties it all up, and really can make it soar.
But also in a picture like this, you're not hearing any effects. I mean, this is just production tracks, essentially, which means I have people screaming, but I don't have the sound of real arrows. I don't have any of that. I don't have anybody getting hit by an arrow and screaming. There's nothing. And as soon as the sound effects come in, it brings it all to life.
Oh, yeah.
So you mean Mel's not going to do all the arrow effects?
Yeah. Only for the previews.
I give homage to Scotland, and if this is your army, why does it go?
We didn't come here to fight for them.
Home! The English are too many. Sons of Scotland, I am William Wallace.
We recognised early that the secret to this was going to be getting some sort of disciplined assistance. And we were talking to the Czech Republic. We were contemplating going to Russia. We needed disciplined extras, and the only place you're going to find them are in the army. You can't go and get 1,600 guys out of the Irish pubs and expect them to be a disciplined army. It just wouldn't have worked.
Well, behind me is the structure to accommodate 1,400 men going through a tent system, where they come in the morning in fatigues, and then, having gone through the system, come out in the other end as Scots. It's taking us 2 hours, 50 minutes to put them all through in costume, 3 hours to put them through costume and makeup, so it's only additional 10 minutes overlap. Another half hour because a lot of them are wearing wigs because they're the Scots, and getting them down on the set within 4 hours. That's arming them up as well through the armoury. Our objective is to get them on the set as soon as we possibly can, and every day we're beating a different record as the men, the soldiers in their platoons get more organised.
Everybody behind, too, you're kind of going to be in this shot, and as the camera's moving across, I just wanted that moment, like, I'm going to go up there and do the same thing with the English. There's just a silence.
And track.
A little slower on the dollar, just feathered a bit more. Vipers.
In my mind when we shot this, and God damn it, there's a shot that moves along all the troops and ends up on the bagpipers.
Yes. Well, I'll show you. You know, that's the one that I made this big.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. I wanted the bagpipers to start the craziness. I wanted all that silence, and then just like the pipes start up, and then everybody goes crazy.
Instead of you.
He could start it. Everybody could. The only reason I screamed first was because I was the only one with it in my mind, you know.
Well, it's very dramatic.
Yeah, it is.
First. The bagpiper shot. Let me find that one.
Steve is the man. He is a tough guy and a great editor and understands story, and he's just gifted. And he didn't get the editing prize that year, but he should have, because that was some really special work. That was really good. I'm sure I'd drive the guy crazy, breathing down his neck. You do have to give him some air, because it's not fair to just be riding somebody the whole time. You gotta let him express himself. And Steve he's very efficient, he's very fast, and has no problem expressing himself, and if you don't give him room, he'll fucking tell you. It's pretty boring.
I think I really like having you kick it off.
You're right, it's cool.
It's just cool. Also, it has this really amazing weird cut.
Yeah, I like what you did with it, no doubt about it. I guess we'll never get the pipers back. Oh, fuck it.
We were very fortunate with the weather. Had we had bad weather, who knows when we would have finished those battle sequences, because obviously they're very difficult, very dangerous to be doing in the mud.
That took a lot of planning. And you had to know exactly what was going to happen in the battle, who was where, the camera direction, everything was just, it was very, very, it was considered. That first battle, it took us, God, with 9 cameras, it took us 6 weeks to shoot it. 6 weeks, that's a long time.
We had a lot of time to shoot, but it isn't really a lot of time given what you're trying to accomplish on a day-to-day basis. So it does require enormous preparation, enormous planning.
There was battle plans that were laid even before the film began shooting, because you don't have time once you start shooting. You have to have the choreography of not just the hand-to-hand stuff, but the actual strategies planned and blocked, and so that the battles are understandable from a strategical point of view, which I've never actually seen in film. And I watched all the battle films I could lay my hands on, but I could never really get a handle on strategy.
Here we go.
I think I got a handle on it, and I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Watch it, please. Camera coming through.
Ready.
Camera coming through.
I looked at Kurosawa films and Kubrick's film, Spartacus, Polanski's Macbeth, and oh God, the list goes on. Henry V, Branagh did a version of Henry V.
What it really told us, I think, more than what we wanted to do is what we didn't want to do. Because a lot of the stuff, I remember films that I'd seen as a child, thought they were really fantastic, and going back and looking at them, they're really not particularly interesting in terms of the way the battles are staged or the action sequences worked out.
Hello. Action!
I just wanted to make it a different kind of bigger battle, and we had to figure a way of structuring that battle that made sense. And if you were fighting against this, what would you do, and what kinds of things were done? How would you rout the enemy? And it was just a matter of constructing that and then filming it in a way that was understandable, almost like a sporting event. You had to know who was who and, you know, what side they were on, and film's camera direction, and making it as clear as possible, because those battles can just turn into chaos, and then you get bored. You don't know what's going on.
Hold it! Whoa! Hold it! Hold it! Stop! 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 Stop!
Are there any shots you guys directed on set that you knew that were so hard to get that you said, we've got to keep that shot because it took us 3 weeks to get it? Or as an editor, you look at it and go, it doesn't work, don't you?
I don't really care how long it took to get it.
No.
You know, that's my
Steve
job, is just to find out what I like.
Making them merciless, yeah. What works, works, and... Geez,
And he doesn't care either, by the way.
No.
If it doesn't work as well
if
as
it ain't
something
working, just turf it.
Will it look a bit funny if he leaves the track before he hits the spears?
We don't have a problem doing this.
Yeah.
This is where it should be.
At least one or two.
So when he hits this, even if it breaks, it still will.
Get ready to shoot, fellas. Slice and dice. I want to see a lot of arms and like swords going.
Check that for your time.
Gear up and go for it, okay? The words of Charles Bronson.
I know you've worked with Mel quite a lot, haven't you? What does he bring to you?
This shot here, it's expensive. You know, these horses cost $100,000, and the track costs about $40,000, and the time involved, 30 stunt guys to carry for a whole picture was real necessary, but it's expensive. Our stunt budget's $1.5 million, and that's a big chunk. And so he backed it. That's what he brings. He's got guts.
Here we go. Ready, background horses. Action! Richard! Cut! Hold it! Stop! Whoa! Stop! Stop! Okay, sorry, let's cut it. Background horses. Now!
A couple of the horses that are rearing, because they're not going to be falling, we have retractable, lightweight PCV show trims where the end actually collapses on a real light spring, and the end that it makes contact with the horse is pretty blunt. And we've tested that a bunch, in front of all the horse people, and they're real happy, and it doesn't do anything to the horse.
Okay, hold it. Whoa! Stop! Stop! Stop!
And then the stunt guys and these mechanical horses will be going into a lot of just PCV pipe show trims, to simulate the wood ones. And the stunt guys will be taking most of the harder ones. We're more concerned about the horses than we are the stunt guys sometimes, but they know what they're into, and we have to take care of the horses.
Okay, let's stand by everybody then and roll cameras.
A little bit of movement, wait.
Camera speed.
Every morning we'd get out there and we would say, safety, 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 and that was all we'd say. And it paid off, because I think the only thing that happened was like a twisted ankle and a hangnail, and maybe a guy got a broken nose one time.
They're going right on action. Action. Bam, bam,
We're lucky to get off like that light. I'm really proud to say.
Action! Short off, Mark. Roll back the other way. Roll back the other way. The other way.
Although there were reports at the time that there were 500 people went to the hospital and stuff, but you'll always have your detractors.
Everybody and roll cameras.
Ready? Everyone moving around a little bit. Remember, take the big hit when it comes. Ready, and action! Cut it!
get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
I don't know. It's pretty wild. That saves our ass a lot.
Lord tells me he can get you out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fooked. You know, fooked. He uses the word fooked. I don't know what the fuck, you know. It's funny. I mean, to me, I didn't get it, but it made me laugh.
Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
I think you need to go back to Wallace.
Okay.
For that information. Like, how does he take that? Or
that's the comic beat. You might be right.
It could be. It's good there, where it is. People laugh at it. It works.
But it may be that the reaction on your face will be even funnier.
Yeah, it's like, I remember when we were shooting it, there's fun in it. There's fun. There's a certain kind of anticipation and fun in it. It's,
well, people are dying all around him. But
and you know what it needs to be, but he's pretty sure. And it needs to, like a reaction, then it needs to go back to him, ha! Like that. It needs to, like...
Let me see if we have the room, probably.
Huh?
Let me see if we have the room in there.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It is tough, because he stands up.
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Just take the turn out of it. Just that... It's a bigger
The
reaction.
Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Almost double move, because I'm using, that's the funny thing. I'm using this piece here, which annoys me to no end. But I can deal with it.
It's funny already.
I suppose it keeps long, but it might be. Anyway,
Lord tells me he...
It's just that little bit of it, like...
tells me he can get me out.
Like, is that
yeah.
so completely crazy? That's why I like it.
It's like...
Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Yeah, it's cool. I buy it.
Okay.
Okay, let's just look at it again. I think maybe it could be a little more vicious, a little snappier.
On the actual hits.
Hits, yeah. It's like...
The Chimes at Midnight. That was the main inspiration for some of the battle scenes, or the way I shot them, was that sort of staccato, kind of shocking hand-to-hand stuff that was like, oh, it was like in your face. That to me was the most effective. And he did that well ahead of his time. He did that in the 50s, you know.
It's really like dropping frames out. You wouldn't even see it, but you think you did. And it just had this jolting effect. And it's actually not there, but you think it is. All the lead up to it and the aftermath is there, and it's just, whoa. And sometimes when stuff looked a bit soft and cheesy, it would actually help to drop a frame or two out. You know, it would save it would make it look better.
You can make it look like the guy takes a vicious hit. Go back to Baldy. Okay. See, as the shield just clears his head.
Yeah.
Okay. Down. One more frame. There. Cut 2 frames out. See what happens. That I reckon would look like nasty, vicious. Put a sound effect in there. Yeah, I just noticed that it looks violent. Yeah, but it's good, Steve. I think. Look, do it again. Run it back. We're getting one different than it was. Bang! It just looks like he gets hit.
Okay.
And he's taking his head with it.
Let's run it on film and we'll see on the big screen if
As an actor, on the last day of shooting, with the exception of blooping and whatnot, you get to go home. But as a director, you're only about halfway through.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think the hard part's over, you know?
At least you're finally in a room, right, with the material.
Yeah. I think it's difficult enough, but it's not like shooting it. It doesn't require the same amount of energy. You never get a spare minute. But then I don't know that you'd want a spare minute, really. It's totally absorbing. So that you live, eat, breathe, sleep this story and the telling of it. How do you tell it better, and how do you tell it best? And how do you work with those people that really, like the DP and the editor and all those people involved, the prop man, you know, the extras, you know, how do you work with all those people to tell that story as best you can? And you have to be a little obsessed. And I was kind of wacky. But then you get into that place, I mean, and that's where you are for 6 months while you're shooting. And you only slightly come off the boil in the editing process. I must admit I burned a few brain cells on it. I mean, you overexert yourself, but you know that it's going to have an end, so you go for the marathon. That's basically what it is. I think in a picture of this scope, to actually be in front of the camera and behind the camera was, it's ambitious. I got away with it, and I think I was able to, you know, put myself into each place where I needed to be in a sufficient manner as to make the film well. For myself, you know, I had to get up earlier than everyone, really, I think, and get in because I had to get ready, because I also had to be in front of the camera as well as behind it. So, you know, the day starts a little earlier for me.
Leave me the fuck alone!
When I'm getting dolled up and ready for the task ahead, you know, the machinery's in order. Yeah. Great. You eat something, you get out there, and then throw those cameras around and, you know, go for it, and try and follow the plans that you've made early on.
Okay, we're cut! Hold on!
What I was doing was just hopping in front of the camera and doing it as I felt it, as best I could. Hopping off, looking at it. If it wasn't a total disgrace, I might do another one for safety and get the hell off. Yeah, I'm happy with it, yeah.
I owe a lot to the producers involved, like Bruce Davey, Alan Ladd Jr., and the guy on the spot, Mr. Troubleshooter himself, Stephen McAveety. Steve was amazing. He used to give you the good news and the bad news every morning. I'd be like, oh, Steve, please don't. No, I don't want to hear it. You know, he said, well, you haven't got the... He said, you can have boiled beef and carrots for lunch every day and have 300 extras, or you can have 800 extras, but I'm afraid lunch is a shit sandwich. So it's like, it's you know what I mean? He'd sort of he was very clear and decisive, and really watched the bucks and really watched your back. And when he saw you kind of like taking a little too long, he'd say, you gotta pick this up, dude. And you're like, really? And you go, yeah. And you go, please don't make me, you know. I mean, I was like at the end of my rope by the end of this, not sleeping enough. And
every day was like that. It felt like that. I think it's the same feeling I got on the last one. It's like being dropped in the middle of an ocean, and you just look around and there's nothing but water around, but you figure, well, there's got to be land. I think I'll go that way, and it's just one stroke at a time, and just go slow and steady, and every now and then look up and do a recce, and then put your head back down and keep going, because you have to just kind of have faith that you're going to come to an end, and that you're going to hit land. Just don't like burn yourself all out and get all strung out and worried and weird about stuff. Just try and remain calm, which is not always possible. You know, I think I blew my stack a couple of times. Really flew off the handle. 3 times. I turned into the Antichrist 3 times. But because it wasn't a daily occurrence, people like took notice, so... Initially, I think I had about 85 shooting days, and it ended up being 105 shooting days. But we did it for the same money. So. Usually day 50 is when a film ends.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, but I knew it, you know it going in, you know you're in for the long haul. I bought a chiropractor, you know, and a kind of a doctor, you know, with vitamins and stuff, and I was exercising.
And the food that was consumed, I mean, man, I was losing weight, and I was eating like an elephant. I was gorging on everything. I was all muscled out, but it was like I don't even know why. I was running so hard, like just the activity of directing and then being in front of the camera and all the horse stuff and the physical stuff and everything. Geez, I mean, it was like I could eat a plate of food, you know, piled this high with potatoes and every kind of like bread, and it was cold, you know. So you're like eating just for warmth and stuff, but I couldn't eat enough. I kept losing weight the whole time. I was like 170 pounds by the time this thing was finished, and I was eating like a horse. But that's what really hard work does to you.
So, action. And he's just been brought in on the cart, pelted with fruit, spat on by everyone, and screamed. And you got to be cheering and jeering, everybody, as you were. Bye. Go on, give me some energy. Yeah, he's in there, and he's just gone up the stairs. And you've all been told. This man is just short of the Antichrist, and that's what you've been told. Now they're going to chop him up. It's only fitting. Keep going. Okay, now the magistrate...
Because I was so focused on the storytelling and all other aspects of the whole thing, it brought a lot of relaxation to it, because I simply didn't have the energy left to be tense with.
He doesn't say anything. Well, looks like he doesn't want mercy.
Rope!
Rope!
Up here. Oh, God. He's twisting. It's awful.
You can't take it too seriously. I mean, you're there, and there's thousands of people all around, and you're the guy who's responsible for all this budget, all these people, all these...
Back to this guy.
It's all on your shoulders. So you might as well not get worried about it, because the minute you start doing that, you're going to get yourself into a knot. It's going to take longer than you anticipated. The key to any skill is relaxation. You just got to relax. The best way to access any of this stuff is to, like, have fun with it, and the rest will follow.
Oh, that's some piece of work. That would do a number on you. Put your head down there for a second.
Oh, nearly did then. I wouldn't do it.
Just follow it moving, you know, through there. Yeah, like maybe that's a handheld.
Yeah, we could do that.
You know, just kind of like follow it, and he doesn't have to swing it real fast.
Pre-rack.
Pre-rack, yes, pre-rack a lot.
Prerequisite, yeah.
Come on, lads. Roll it.
Okay, speed. Speed.
I do know afterwards that I couldn't really form a sentence for about 3 months. And that I was kind of so depleted. I'd been running on empty.
Please. Just say. Cry out mercy. Yes. Yes. The prisoner wishes to say a word.
When all is said and done, at the end of the day, I mean, there's a lot of people there. On some days, perhaps there were 3,000 people there. 3,000 mouths to feed, 3,000 people working really hard on long days. I mean, like 15-hour days. All earning a living.
Keep the E-flats going, third violin. There you go.
So even if you'd made a disaster, at least you supported 3,000 people for that day. I mean, it's the bottom line. You have to look at it that way. But the good news is that you know, all that hard labor paid off. In my opinion, it paid off very handsomely, too.
I was impressed when I saw that score. And I got to say, about 95% of that score was just spot on from the minute it hit the picture. You know? And it's not the same with every score. You have to fiddle with some scores, you know? That's one of the great scores, I think. It sort of rivals, you know, Lawrence of Arabia score or any of the great scores. It's one of the great scores. And Horner delivered big time with that score. That's a great score.
time does it take to cut a film?
As long as they give you.
Less a day or two.
Less a day or two.
Well, the picture's coming out around Memorial Day. We'll be cutting.
We'll be cutting right up.
Working
and messing with it right up to the time, I'm sure.
We're doing sound work and music and all that stuff.
A lot of little jobs to do. Millions of little jobs to do. Opticals.
You can continue to make it better. I mean, that's the whole thing. You just continue to make it better. And at a certain point, you can make it better, but the amount of effort to make it better is so great. What you're making better is so minimal that you realize it's time to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, that's when you stop.
Yeah. I can't really work on something unless I'm, enthusiastic and proud of it. I hope that doesn't happen. There may come a time when you are obliged to do that and you're not enthusiastic and proud of it. I hope that doesn't happen, but so far I have been. And I am of this.
It was, a medium that had been left alone for a long time. And it's sort of like that, having done it, okay, everyone didn't run out and see it. It wasn't a huge box office success. It actually became more successful in DVDs, and people were like, wow, why didn't we see this on the big screen? Dude, it's an experience. But it actually became more popular on VHS, I think, at the time, now DVD. And I've had more feedback on that film than anything. It was like, well, that and the passion.
What will you do without freedom?
It's going to go out there, it's going to be spat on, kicked at, commented on. It's a hard old world. But I hope that they can't talk at the end of it. I hope that they're so moved and so, inspired by it. That's all. That they've watched this great story and that they've found something in themselves, through it.
Okay. I'm pretty sure today was the last big day with everybody. Some of you will be coming back, but not all of you. But I can hardly express my appreciation for your participation in this dream of ours. It's something you should be very proud of, and we're certainly very proud of you. You behave like gentlemen. The other thing is, goodbye.
Drinks on you.
Who's ever going? And God bless.
Cheers!